Hey everybody, good afternoon, welcome back to the channel. My name is Lee, this is Silver Lining Analysis for another stream today. Just gonna hang out for a couple minutes here, I'm 3 minutes late. Thought you guys I would be on at 4 p.m, it's 4:03 right now. We're just gonna wait, I think about 15 minutes, just going to hang out with you guys a little bit, and then we are going to dive into a couple different topics today. I got a pretty interesting comment from somebody on one of my videos, and I wanted to talk about that. I also wanted to talk about this article by Ed Steer that was suggested by one of you guys last time I was on. And I really wanted to read this with you guys, see how far we come, and then see if it's interesting or not. But yeah, we are just going to hang out a little bit. How's your guys' week been? Has it been a busy week in the market? Again, this week I didn't really check the charts all that much. But if I know Twitter, right, I was on there a little bit during the week. Things seem to be falling apart for a lot of people. I saw a lot of calls again for $50 silver or for $35 silver, which probably means that it was a very volatile week because those kind of comments only come from days where silver is red, of course. Right, let me show you guys. Let me show you guys what comment came in the other day. Let me just get my channel here. I'm gonna go search it real quick. And then we will go from there. Let me see. Yeah, so here it is. Right, you guys can see that, right? It was a comment from one of you guys. From Robin. And Robin asked, Seabridge seems to be selling a lot. And he's talking about the buying and selling of shares by insiders of the company, right? So you have management that runs these gold mines, and usually these management teams hold stocks of the company itself. You can see that by their filings, how much stock they actually own. And Robin is saying that a lot of these CEOs are starting to sell stock out of their investments. And he's saying that a lot of company managers, management teams seem to have sold shares in December and January, as they may have decided to sell at a peak. One interesting aspect of it is, one interesting aspect of this is that it seems that Keith Neumeyer sold a lot of shares in First Majestic Silver and bought into First Mining Gold. He put a lot of money into FMG in the last year. Hey Marco, welcome to the channel. Good to see you again. But yeah, apparently Keith Neumeyer is selling some stock, right, from one company to buy into another one. I own First Mining Gold. I own quite a big position in that company for my portfolio, then at least. So I welcome him, of course, as a shareholder, so he can buy as many stocks as he wants of that company. But in general, I wanted to go over what I think about management buying and selling their own company stock. Because we saw a couple weeks ago, I believe, that a company CEO, I think it was the CEO of BlackRock Silver, was buying and selling stock in his own company like 50 times. And a lot of people on Twitter were really talking about that as if it was a really bad thing and as if he was scamming some of his investors. And I don't generally, I don't really care about the buying and selling of management of their own stock. And let me explain to you why I don't really care. Um, so, first of all, management owning stock is a good thing, right? If a management team owns a big part of their own company, they are very aligned with you as a shareholder, right? So, if the company is doing well, they are doing well financially through their stocks. So, that incentivizes them to do a good job. Um, that's one way to look at it. So, in that lens, it will be bad for a management team to sell their stock because then they're saying they are selling out of the company. And then that raises the question with a lot of investors and a lot of people, should I sell as well? Well, nobody can answer that question for you, really. That really depends on your own belief in a case and in a stock. So, the reason that I don't care as much about management teams selling and buying their own stocks is that I think that a lot of these management teams are in this business simply to make a lot of money. And, you got to be honest with yourself at some point, right? You're buying gold stocks, you're buying gold as a way to make money, right? Not a lot of people are in this business purely for the mining aspect of it. A lot of people are in this business because the volatility is really big, and that means that with a small investment, you can make a larger amount of money. That is just the reality of the case. And seeing that a lot of these management teams, in the research that I've done over the past couple of years, a lot of these management teams originate in some way from the capital business, from the money business, right? These people are ex-money managers. These people are um, have been working in hedge funds. They've worked in banks. There's a lot of CEOs in this business. And I believe that those kind of people generally just want to make money. And, whether they make money by selling stock, buying stock, or by building a mine, I think for them it's all the same. So, if you believe that these management teams are in this business to make money, then you shouldn't be mad at them when they are trying to make money, right? They just see their stock probably as another investment for them. So with that, I want to say as well that most of these CEOs probably know just as much about the movement of these stocks as you do. So they don't have a crystal ball. They don't know where the gold price is going to go. They don't know where the silver price is going to go. They don't even know where their stock price is going to go. So if, for instance, you are the owner of First Majestic Silver, let's just take that for an example. And they are saying that they've sold in January, right? So let's say you are the owner of First Majestic Silver, you are Keith Neumeyer, and you see your stock performing like this for just about 4 years, right? Of course, you're going to sell some stock when it goes up there. And of course, you are going to rotate that money into something cheaper. That is just simply what a good investor does. So I completely get that move. It probably doesn't even mean that he has any particular opinion about First Majestic Silver. It's just, the stock price has gone up, and at that point you should sell some. It's a business decision, right? Your stock is worth, what is it? 300% more than it was a couple of years ago. Why shouldn't you sell some? Like, I would do the same if I was in their position, honestly. Like, I would also sell some shares. It's a different thing, of course, when, let's say, over this entire period, right? Over this period, it will be a very different thing if a management team was selling stock right there, right? Right there, right there, right there, right there. It would be different, right? Because those are in down years. Those are not very particularly interesting years in this business. If you're selling stocks at all of these places, then it means you're just taking money out of the company for your own benefit. But if you have held all of these shares through this entire bear market, of course you are going to sell some shares when the price goes up, right? That's just smart investing. Sell, buy cheap, sell expensive. And these people who own these companies, who build these companies, they build them from the ground up. And then, of course, if they are going to get rewarded for that at some point, of course, they are going to take some money off the table. Hey, Kaya, what do you think about Hecla mining? Hecla mining. I think I did a video on that a while ago, but we can look into it today. What is Hecla mining doing? So yeah, with a chart that looks like this, it's kind of the same, right? Let's say you are a major shareholder in Hecla mining, and you have held your shares all the way. What it has done? What has it done? You've held your shares all the way from, let's say you are an insider since like 2011, 2010. You've had all this pain that you had to endure. Of course, when the stock price goes up like 500% in a year, of course you are going to sell some. Because that's, at the end of the day, what a lot of these CEOs make these mines for. It's to get paid. And then once they are getting paid, like, who are you to tell them that they shouldn't be taking money off the table? Because for all they know, the stock price is just going to go back down instantly. So yeah, for that reason mainly, I get why a lot of these CEOs are selling. That is, and maybe they are making bad decisions. That can always happen, because they are investors as well. They are humans as well. They got needs. They got emotions. They might not sell at the right time. They might not buy at the right time, just like you and me. But I don't think that CEOs selling in some way right now is a very alarming sign. Might be famous last words, but we'll see. I get it, I get it. I get why you would sell. But then again, I think it's going higher at some point, so I am not selling myself. But, I don't own these actual companies. I just own stock in them, so, it's different for me than it is for them. I was friends with a CEO of a pretty small exploration company for a couple of years, and was a really nice man. I talked to him on the phone a bunch of times. He is located in Canada. Company is not all too well known, so even if I said the name, you probably wouldn't recognize it. But he said as well that during the bear market of 2008 till, or sorry, from 2011 till 2020, this man that ran that company and a lot of his management team as well worked for practically no pay at all. They did it all for free. They were compensated in stock, and they had to give in their salaries because they just couldn't afford payroll otherwise. And he told me a couple times that, listen, if the price of all of these stocks is going to go up in the future, and if the price of gold and silver are going to rise, just bet that I'm going to sell some stock, not because I don't believe in the project, but just because I have, my own needs as well. Like my roof needs to be fixed, my house needs to be fixed, I need a new car at some point. Like there's just expenses that need to be paid. And if your company is small, right, and a lot of these, let's go look up first mining gold, for instance. Marco, what do you think of Lumina Metals? It sounds like a pretty big resource in Poland. Oh, very interesting. I'll look at that on stream later. I like Poland. It's very hardworking people there, so that's a good start. But let's say you have a company like First Mining, and the stock is trading at like $500 million market cap right now. Back then, let's say it's trading from the year 2023 till 2025, it's trading for about, what is it, 50, $60 million market cap. That means that all of the money that you raise is just going to go into corporate expenses. It's very difficult to raise money in a market like this. And that CEO that I was friends with told me that in these times, all of these CEOs and all of these managers, a lot of them just work for free and they get paid by compensation in stock so that when this stock goes up like that, these people get rewarded for their hard work and for their persistence and for the risk that they've taken. So, of course, you can expect these people who also just want to get paid and want to live a comfortable life where they make a profit. Of course, they are going to be selling. You know, it's pretty obvious, right? But I guess that a lot of people get nervous when they see that, just because they don't understand the story all that well, or they have doubts themselves about the company or the investment that they made. So they see other people selling, and that means that they think that they should be selling too, and that's where the nervousness comes from. Because, you know, I hold BlackRock Silver, right? I own this stock. I own considerably less now than I used to because I have been a net seller in this area. But I know that the CEO of this company has been buying and selling a bunch of his stock and has not been disclosing it. So he's been making some money off of this volatility. You know, that's just something that you gotta live with. That doesn't say anything about the project itself. That doesn't really say anything about the economics of the project. It says something about the management team. And, you know, you can take that into consideration when you're looking at a stock. But knowing that the CEO is selling and buying this stock doesn't nerve me at all, honestly. I still hold BlackRock Silver. I still think it's a very good project. I still think that it's undervalued at this moment. And that's why I own it. And then the CEO can do whatever he wants, honestly, with his shares. That's all up to him. But you know, but I think that's something that everybody has to figure out on their own. Of course, how they deal with that. But I don't mind it too much. I always like it though when a management team has some big skin in the game, meaning that if they own a lot of stock, then that's better. But you know, you don't know how they got that stock either. If they bought it in the open market or they got it as founding shares, it's all very relative. Let me look at. Let me actually just do this real quick. Let me just get a new one. Right here. Google Lumina Metals in Poland. Poland is interesting, you know? I live in Europe. I live in Belgium now. I used to live in the Netherlands. And we have a lot of immigrants from Poland who come to the Netherlands to work. But man, there's a lot of very good labor capacity in Poland. There's very good people. They're all really, you know, most of them are really hardworking people who don't complain too much. They just they come here to just work really hard and build a better life. And I think that if that same energy and if that same mindset is in the people in the industry there as well, then that is really a good thing for that country. I know that Poland is one of the only European states right now that is also actually expanding their commercial productions. A lot of Europe is pretty stagnant when it comes to production, but Poland has a very active economy. So, you know, having a mine in Poland might be pretty interesting. So this is Lumina Metals. 3 major discoveries for 1 emerging copper-silver district. All right, let's look at it. Luminium Metals is advancing one of Europe's most significant new copper-silver opportunities, a district-scale portfolio of discoveries, Western Poland, led by the flagship Nowa Sol project. All right. And let's just learn a little bit more about that project. Let's also view the presentation. So it's a flagship. So this is their flagship project, the Nowa Sol. It's copper, silver in Western Poland. And let's just look at where Poland is. So Western Poland, that is around this area. The two biggest cities are there. All right. Let's jump into it. The flagship copper silver project. Oh wait, it says copper silver. Why did I read copper gold a moment ago? Ross Beatty is the main backer of Lumina, says Marco. Oh yeah, Ross Beatty is a big name. Okay, so it's copper silver. I'm sorry, I said copper gold in the beginning, but it's copper silver. I don't know why I misread that, but you know, that's how things apparently go. The project sits within Nova Sol 2 exploration concessions, and it has a mineral resource estimate and a PEA. That is pretty good. Located approximately 400 kilometers west of Warsaw. So we have Warsaw. We have 400 kilometers. There's Warsaw. So it's somewhere in this area right there. All right. That's near Krakow. That's pretty good. It's the capital. There's a lot of people living there. Year-round road access, nearby rail links, regional airport connectivity, and an existing power infrastructure. The reason that this is important to have in a mining project is primarily because it takes a whole lot of time to build these things. And it is very expensive if they don't get built organically or by the state. So seeing that this infrastructure is already in place is a pretty good sign. The project is positioned within one of Europe's most established copper mining regions, with access to industrial infrastructure and services. All right, we in Europe, we don't really have all that many mining companies, right? Sorry, I'm sweating. It's really hot here. I'm in the attic, and it's like 35 degrees right now. But in Europe, we don't really have all that much infrastructure anymore, especially not mining infrastructure. A lot of the mining sites here are actually vacant and in decay. Let's see. Do they have a resource base? The project hosts 604 million tons of measured and indicated resources, and with an additional inferred resource. All right. Tier 1 scale. Okay, where is a little overview of all of these numbers that they have? 1.4% copper and 38% gram per ton silver. I believe that this is a pretty decent grade of copper, if I am not mistaken. Let me just check that real quick. Let me just check that real quick, what an average copper grade is. So with the power of AI, right, because we are just using AI whenever we can, honestly. They say that average copper grade is about 1 to 2%. With underground mines and with open pits, it's a lot lower than that. It's 0.3 till 0.6. So 1.4 gram per ton, or sorry, 1.4% copper is a potentially economic copper grade. So that is nice to see. The silver component is also pretty good, not exceptionally well, but this is definitely going to be a copper producer with a silver byproduct, probably. It is pretty big. There's been a lot of drilling, so that is good. That is sunk cost that you don't have to pay for if you buy the project right now. Let's look at their... Let's look at their presentation. What do they have to tell us? Just like that. Might be a little small for you guys to see. Let me see if I can... Yeah. Can you guys see this correctly? Let's see. They have 3 multi-generational discoveries. All right. So their discoveries are located right there, which is west of Warsaw, not down, which is west right there. All right. Projects 3 significant copper silver deposits. Measured and indicated average. So let me just get a quick screenshot of this. Let me get a quick screenshot of that. We are going to go to Gemini, and we are going to ask this, yes, how much pounds of copper does this and how many ounces of silver? So if you ever want to quickly calculate the amount of ounces or pounds that are in a deposit, you can simply put it into ChatGPT or into Gemini and it will calculate it for you. But it apparently doesn't get the image. All right, it looks like it isn't working right now. That's fine. They do say, however, in this image that they have about 743 million ounces of silver. That is a extremely big deposit in the measured and indicated. And then in inferred they have another 100 million ounces. And in another deposit I see here, they have another 300 million ounces of silver. So that would mean that they have over a billion ounces of silver in the ground right now, together with 7.5 million tons of copper. That is pretty impressive. That's a very big resource. That's enough to be building a full-scale copper mine out of, and enough to be building a whole silver mine out of. That's a very big deposit that we got here. This is a very good start. So they got a economic study done, which says that they have a net present value of $8.3 billion and a 20% rate of return with, let's see what kind of prices they use for that. They used, as you can see down here, it will be small to see, but they used $4.75 for copper and $37.50 per ounce of silver. Of course, copper prices right now are $1 higher and silver prices are about double. So the economics of this project are increasing, but seeing that it's got a 20% rate of return, that is actually, in this day and age, if I can say it, quite low. Because I know a couple gold mines that have over 100% rate of return right now, but they are not in Europe. They are also not silver and copper, which is quite a unique combination in my opinion. But this may be very interesting to look more into. They say that Poland is actually number 6 in copper resources worldwide. All right, I didn't know that. I knew that Chile was very big. Where does Poland rank in silver? All right, I didn't know that Poland had the most silver endowments. That's interesting to know. Let's see, the copper belt in Poland. All right. All right. All right, yes, they have a lot of ounces. I would like to see something about the project itself. Let me see. 2026 highlights of the consolidated assessment. It's got a 20-year mine life with a 30 million ounce silver production for the first 10 years. And on top of that, let's say 300,000 ton per year copper production. That is a pretty big production profile. But how far along are they in making this? 2 independent mining operations. All right. So they are saying right here, and that is something that you should keep in mind with projects like this. They say in this that it's going to cost $6.4 billion for pre-production capex. So before they even get a single ounce of silver or a single pound of copper out of the ground, they're going to have to put in $6.4 billion. And I know that a lot of people don't look at Europe as a good place to stick a lot of money into, because all the regulations and all the environmental rules that we have here just simply prevent a lot of things from happening. So that's a big project for Europe, this is. And that is a lot of money to be pouring into something. So that is probably also why this initial return rate, this IRR that is up here, your return is going to be low because the capex is so extremely high. It might be interesting if they have the money secured, if they have some clear plans for production, that is going to be very interesting. But just know that if you are going to be buying into this company, you are part of this capex raise. You know, your money is going to be used for that initial capital. It is pretty capital intense, this mine is, I have to say. And a post-tax return of about 10%, well, the silver prices are about double right now, so, you know, copper prices are a little bit higher than 475 right now. Let me just see what copper is doing at the moment. Let's get this out of the way. Let's grab the copper price real quick. It's about 640. Can it go up? Yeah, for sure. Can it go to 10 bucks? Probably. So the copper component in this is also potentially going to increase. But for this to really make sense, right? For this to really be making you a lot of money, the silver price and the copper price need to stay where they are. Otherwise, a 10% return on this amount of capex is going to be pretty risky. Because if you are over budget or if your production is going to be lower, you are running the risk of having a losing company, a money-losing mine. So silver prices, copper prices definitely need to stay elevated for this mine to be running profitably. And even at these silver prices and these copper prices, $90 silver right here and $6 copper, we see that they have a return of just about 30%. I can tell you about 10 companies right now I know that have an initial rate of return above 100, that have payback periods of less than a year. Why is that? Because they are smaller mines, they have lower capex. Or well, the mines aren't even that much smaller, they just have lower capex. So this capex number is really, really big in this project. 6.4 billion, that's a huge project. For a 20% return at these gold and copper prices. Is that worth it? Potentially, but then it needs to look pretty good. Their production profiles, all right. Production peaks and then slows down. All right, sure. They say that they have a low cost, yes, but they have a big capex. So the big capex that they have, as you can see here, 6.4 billion, is because they have two different mining operations that are both going to cost about $3.2 billion. So there are a couple risks with that, of course. Let's say you were building one single mine for $3.2 billion. That is extremely complex, right? There's a lot that can go wrong. There's a lot of schedules to maintain, and there are a lot of shareholders to keep informed. Now imagine doing that twice in the same project. That is an extremely tricky thing to do. I don't know if they are going to be building this side by side or one after the other. I would love to know that. I would love to see if they have some form of statement about that. And here, the Polish copper tax reform is a strategic priority. All right, so a mining tax you have in Poland. Wait, let me make this bigger for you guys so you guys can see. So Poland apparently has a mining tax, and it has a corporate income and a sales tax. All right. So you can see here that there is a 51% mining tax and a 19% corporate tax for a total tax burden of 70%. That is pretty insane. That's a very big tax. So you are spending a tremendous amount of money to get a very big resource out of the ground, And on top of that, once you've spent all that money and once you've built 2 of the mines, the government is going to steal 70% of your profits. That is quite extraordinary. And these are very big things to take into consideration when you are planning to invest in a company like this. So, of course, this company is trading at a discount because there's a lot of capital that needs to go into this. But it is potentially really cheap. So let's see how much it is trading at today. The company was called Lumina Metals. Lumina Metals. Seems like they haven't been trading for that long. Investor Center. Let's see, do they have something about the stock price? No, so they haven't been trading for that long. Marco says mining tax is a major issue in Poland and Lumina has to negotiate favorable terms for this project. All right, so they got to be lobbying a little bit. And Ross Beatty seems to be confident that that he can achieve that. Probably. I mean, if you're big enough, if you got enough money, then there's a lot that you can do in the world of politics. Lumina Metals. Lumina Metals, it's trading right now for, let's see what that is. Oh, sorry. It's Canadian dollars, $1.3 billion Canadian. That's about $1 billion US. All right. So they need about 6 times that market cap to fund this project, right? So that's one way to think about that. Sorry for that ASMR experience. My girlfriend made me some lemonade. But they have some well-defined permitting process in Poland, so they are giving us some form of a schedule. So they say that mining, design, and engineering is going to take from 2026 till 2029. And then they got some other environmental studies and some other studies that are running until 2029. And then afterwards, they are having a mining concession applications and then a mining concession granted. So they are planning to get their permits in 2030. So they are going to be raising $6 billion somewhere around this time, somewhere 2029, 2030. So that means that if you're buying it for about $1 billion right now, they are going to be needing to raise 6 times that amount just to get it started and get it into production. So that means that you are potentially going to get diluted a lot from here till here. So if we are talking about the, what's that called again? The Lassonde curve, something like that. Wait, let me search that real quick. So if we are talking about this Lassonde curve, right, in mining, open image in a new tab. So the Lassonde curve in mining is a curve of the stock price of a stock. And this curve says that once you are pre-discovery, your stock is valued extremely low. Then afterwards, you have a discovery and people see the economic potential that your deposit has, then your share price rockets up. Then afterwards, you got to be doing a lot of permitting, a lot of planning, a lot of construction of the actual project, and the capital raises, and that happens here in this part of the curve. That is where I think this stock is in right now. And then afterwards, once all the excitement is out of the stock, once the real boring work is over and the construction actually starts, the value of a stock is going to increase up until the point of first production. And once you have first production, your mine is the most valuable it's ever going to be. And afterwards, it's slowly going to taper out. So this is a valuation cycle of a mine, basically. And looking at Lumina Resources right now, or Lumina Metals, I'm sorry, it seems like this exploration stage has happened in the private markets. Then they came onto the public markets, as you can see. As you can see right here, the stock has been trading since April 30th for $1 billion, just about. And they are saying that they are going to be spending a lot of time still from 2026 till about 2029, 2030 in the actual R&D phases. So in these kind of phases. So expect this company to take some time before you are going to make any money on it. That's what I'm thinking right now, because the resource is big. And by the time they are going to mine it, they are probably going to have higher silver prices and higher copper prices, because I believe both of them are going to go up in the future. So if they are going to spend, say, 4 or 5 years building out this mine, doing the engineering and getting the permits in place, prices of copper and silver are probably going to be up, which means that their economics are also going to be better than they are today. But because this company is in the boring stages of a mining company, which is the R&D stage, there isn't probably going to be much hype in this stock. And a lot of money is going to be needing to be raised to do the R&D, to do the permitting, etc., etc. So expect to be diluted when you own this stock. That's my 2 cents about it right now. Would be very interesting to see if they could get some synergies going between these two mining operations. Because if this was just one operation, the economics would also be very different than they are now, with 2 separate operations, with 2 separate forms of risk, right? Because if you have one operation and you have one mill that can shut down, if you have one organization that can screw you over, if you have one road system to maintain, if you have one electrical grid to maintain, that's a lot different than having 2 of them. That's just double the problems, of course. So that is an additional layer of risk, which also means, by the way, that this permitting that they want to do has to be done twice for each single one of the mines. You gotta have a mine design and an engineering phase on each one of these mines. You gotta do environmental studies on each one of these mines. You are going to do a deposit development plan on each one of those mines. And all of these studies take a tremendous amount of money. And you are going to have to spend that twice. So looking at this Lazan curve, the money that is going to be need to spend to get it from this stage to an actual construction plan and to a construction decision is twice as much money as it would be if you had one mine. So that is why I would be interested to know if they are going to do 2 at the same time, or if they are going to do one and then the other. Either way, they are pretty far away from the production. At least 5 years, if there is going to be no delay. Which, I don't know when to put this in, but I'm just thinking about this now. We can see here that this stock has been trading since about the 1st of May, the 30th of April. So if we go to the news articles, where are they, press releases? We can probably see the news articles start from May 19th. Lumina Metals receives key approval to list its shares on the Warsaw Stock Exchange. All right, so they recently have gone public, which means that investors like Ross Beatty and stuff, Ross Beatty and such, have been in this stock probably since the exploration phase. And that is really the added benefit of having a lot of money. It's that you can find projects like this in earlier stages, because Ross Beatty has probably been an extremely big investor in this company for a long time, where the stock has gone up, it's gotten public right now, and now he's talking about it, and now he's giving his insights about the stock to the world. But of course, a guy like that has been in this stock probably for a long time, so he's probably already up. That doesn't mean that if you get in now that you are also going to be up. All right, so the Lumina Group has a proven 20-year track record. Let's see, what have they done? Right, they've built a Lumina Group. What is that? Lumina Group mining. So Lumina Metals Corp closed a massive $406 million initial public offering and a secondary offering in Toronto, becoming the largest Canadian mining IPO since 2021. Whoa. The largest IPO. Here we go. That's a very good sign, by the way, for the entire industry. That's very positive. We have bigger offerings, which means more money is coming into the market. Congratulations, everybody who's been in this market for a couple of years now. We have done it. We have new all-time highs in IPOs. More money coming in, more people looking at this market means that is very good for all of us. So great thing. And it was led by billionaire mining entrepreneur Ross Beatty. The company is advancing a massive copper and silver district in Poland. All right. But what is the Lumina Group? Because they say right here that they've got a very big track record with multiple acquisitions, right? So right here, this company answers the question for us. Was the management team successful? Success in this market, meaning only two things. If you sold a mine or is a mine in production, right? They have done that multiple times, right? They've sold 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 mining companies. So that is an extremely big and extremely important track record. So that is very impressive. That's very impressive. Let's look at the directors of this company. So just to recap real quick, right now we got a company with a extremely big resource, very big copper, very big gold exposures in Poland, which is a very unique jurisdiction, which unfortunately has a 70% tax on mining profits. That combined with the extremely big $6.4 billion capital investment needed to get this into a mine makes this quite a risky operation at this moment, because you need a lot of money being put in for this project to get into production, and the profits that you are going to get are going to be taxed extremely high. So the things that needed to happen here is that they need to get some form of break on that tax for people to be interested in giving this company $6.4 billion to go ahead and build a mine. But definitely very interesting story. The management team seems to be extremely experienced. Starting off with the CEO, Jordan Pandov, 15 years of mining experience, a former senior executive at Glencore, very big copper miner in the world. So if he's a senior executive, he definitely knows a thing or two about copper mining. And he has extremely, I don't know if he has good connections, but he could be having good connections with Glencore itself, and that is always very good. He served as a director and chairman of Base Core Metals. How is Base Core Metals doing then? Base Core Metals. Sale of Base Core Metals. Glencore today announces the completion of the sale of a royalty package by Base Core Metals. All right. What's the ticker? The ticker of Lumina? The ticker of the company I'm looking at right now is Lumina Metals. Ticker LMCU on the Toronto Venture Exchange. They don't seem to be trading for very long, so do with that what you will, but just know that this has been put on the market a couple months ago. So Base Core Metals was a Toronto-based streaming and royalty company funded in 2017 as a 50-50 joint venture between Glencore and the Ontario Teachers Pension Plan. Okay. The company is no longer an active standalone entity. In 2022, the business was acquired by Sandstorm Gold Royalties for $500 million. The highly valuable royalty package included 9 royalties and 1 stream. Okay. So the CEO of the company has built a streaming and royalty company together with Glencore and has sold that for $500 million. So that is definitely a good experience to have. That is successful experience. I don't know if it's relevant experience because a mining company itself, building 2 actual producing mines, something very different than owning streams and royalties in a mining company. So the actual infrastructure building is very difficult than the is much more difficult than the financial engineering around it. So those are my 2 thoughts about that. Definitely very successful experience. $500 million sale together with Glencore. Very good. So the chief financial officer, Peter Portka, he has extensive experience in senior financial corporation and corporate development roles in the mining industry, former CFO of Cordoba Minerals. Let me just go to Google. Cordoba Minerals. I think that my camera has shut off. Just 1 second. Let me redo that real quick. I think we should be back with visuals now, right? Let me know if my face cam is back. Yeah, I can see it back. All right. So when researching CFOs, which are different from any other type of financial expert, let me see. I always look at the companies that they worked for, and then it's working. Okay, thank you. So when looking at CFOs, right, I always look at the companies that they worked with in the past, and then I just look at their financial statements because that is the work of the CFO, and we can instantly see what a guy like that is doing. So this is a company. This is Cordoba Minerals, and this is the company that the CFO has worked for. Let's see what he has done in the past. Let me just make this a little bit bigger. Company gets some cash. Does it have debt? Yes, due to related parties. All right. Let's look at that when we come to it. What has the exploration expenses, corporate administration? Pretty high. We are going to look at that too. Share-based payments, depreciation. Share-based payments of, what is that, 490,000 in the whole year. That is not really all that bad. Non-controlling interests and investments in subsidiaries. I want to know more about that. And settlement of long-term loans from related parties and proceeds from long-term loans with related parties. All right, so let's go to the fine print of the financial statements to see what this guy is doing. So with the CFO, what I look at primarily is how does this man work, right? Does he take on debt for an exploration company? Does he sell a lot of shares? Does he get favorable conditions on the financial interests that he takes on? That is the most important part. Leases, liability, share capital. So share-based payments for the year ending in December 2023. So the previous company that he worked for spent about 6 million bucks a year in total corporate administration. So that means that is about 500K a month in just corporate administrative expenses. And it's for a company that is this an exploration company? Yeah, this is an exploration company. Spending about 6 million bucks a year on corporate expenses. That is pretty high. Non-controlling interests. That is strategic $100 million agreement. All right. Partnerships, joint ventures. There's some complexities there. Right, so here is the related party transactions. Salaries, corporate administration, exploration, and interest expenses. All right, I'm getting lost a little bit in this financial statement. What I can see from this CFO in the past is that the company that he worked for, Cordoba Minerals, was spending quite a lot of money on their corporate administration. So, question that comes from that is this company also going to be doing that? Because in a company where you have to spend, where's their presentation? It's here, duplicate this. In a company where we are going to expect that it's going to take a long time between your initial investment and your potential payout in the end, you want to get diluted as little as possible, because dilution stacks up over time. Let's say, you know, what I want to say with that is that compound interest, you know, we all know about that, stacking money on top of each other every year and if you compound it by a small amount every year, eventually it's going to be extremely big. You also have a compounding effect in the other way, where if you dilute yourself, right, by a very small percentage every single year, eventually in 5, 6, 7, 8 years, you are going to be diluted by an extremely big amount. And if the CFO of your company is going to be diluting the company more than it needs to, you as a shareholder are going to dramatically decrease your potential returns. So what you want to look at when you're looking at a CFO is that the companies that he worked for in the past, do they have tight financials? Do they dilute their shareholders as little as possible? That is the biggest question. So you have Lil Braten. He's the senior vice president, and he's also a legal expert, as it seems. 35 years of experience in the mining industry as a lawyer. He's a founding director, served as a director for Lumina Gold. So some experiences already within the company. That's very good. He's a lawyer, which you need if you are going to be asking for favorable deals from the government. You need somebody who knows the law. And this is the first Polish name that I see. Krzysztof, I'm not going to be able to pronounce his last name, but he is a vice president of corporate development and has led some projects across the life cycle in Europe and America. So some relevant experience here for the VP. Being the fact that they are going to be mining in Poland, and this being the first Polish name I see, I do instantly wonder if these people are going to be able to talk Polish. It's maybe not needed, but you know, it's going to be very beneficial if you're going to have to deal with Polish authorities. And if you want to be able to mine in Poland, do you speak the language? Can you convince your auditors that you are actually going to be nice to the communities that you are going to be mining in? Olaf Meyer is the vice president of project development, and he was a former general manager of Anglo Americas. That's very good. And also held senior roles at Glencore. So I see Glencore here as well, together with the Glencore experience from Jordan. So together with the Lil Braten, which worked for the Lumina Gold company before, you can see that there is some connection within the management team itself. That's a very, very big plus, because that brings some teamwork, that brings some experiences that you can't buy with money, that just grows over time. And I really like that. I really like to see a management team that has worked together in the past. So, in short, this management team has worked together in the past. The management team was successful. As you can see, this was a sale. This was a director, a founding director of a company. They have relevant experiences here in the life cycle developments in Europe. And I believe that that is pretty good. Just a first very big overview of the management team. I like it. Let me just make this smaller a little bit. Right. So the capitalization and shareholder overview. So they currently have 107 million shares outstanding with about 7.2 million options and some reserved share units for a fully diluted share count of 115 million. That gives them a market cap of about 1 billion. They got $200 million in cash right now, so they are cashed up. That's a pretty big amount. I would like to know where they are going to need that cash for exactly at the moment, but they are also going to be needing to raise $6.4 billion. And if you compare 230 million bucks to 6.4 billion, then 200 million bucks is not really sufficient money to start making this mine. It might be sufficient money to get them through the development stages and the R&D stages, but who knows? Looking at this timeline, I do not believe that this is going to be enough money. They are potentially going to be needing to raise more money in the future. And that is, of course, why they come to the open market, to have the potential to start raising bigger and bigger amounts of money. So they got some financial analysts. I don't really care about that. They got ownership percentage. All right. Management and board owns 8% of this stock. Ross Beatty owns 36% of the stock. God damn. That's a lot of percentage. Ross Beatty. Let me show you guys just who this guy is. So Ross Beatty connected to the World Economic Forum for the people who are interested in those kind of things. He's one of them, if you know what I mean. He is a very big resource entrepreneur, 46 years of experience, founding chair member of Pan American Silver, Equinox Gold. You know, this guy is a very, very wealthy man in the mining industry. He's in the Canadian Mining Hall of Fame. So, you know, if this guy speaks, a lot of people are listening. And this guy is speaking right now with a 36% interest in Lumina Gold. But just know that this 36% interest was probably gathered at lower prices than it is trading at right now. So just take that into consideration. But this is definitely a big vote of confidence by somebody who really understands this industry extremely well. Eric Sprott owns 2.9%. Good to see him in here as well. The Lundin family is in here as well, 3%. All right, so some very interesting names in the stock, some very big names as well. Lundin family, Ross Beatty, Eric Sprott, of course, all the billionaires. All right. It's a very interesting case. I find it extremely interesting. But there are some things for me personally that just jumps out. It's a pretty long time away from construction. There's a very, very big capital expenditure that needs to happen. $3.2 billion twice for this project. But this is definitely something that might be a little bit too big for me, personally. But it is going to be something that I am definitely going to be keeping an eye on. And it seems like they are producing their press releases in Polish as well. That is very fun if you want to learn a little bit more of your Polish. So it seems like they are doing a pre-feasibility study right now for their copper-silver project. And it seems like they've just raised some money. They've done a public offering for 406 million bucks. And the underwriters have purchased additional shares. All right, so it's an oversubscribed offering. Under what kind of terms? So they've sold shares for a gross proceeding of 406 million. The underwriters have partially exercised their over-allotment options, and they've purchased an additional 1.2 million shares for $12.50 per common share. And if we look at the share price right now, it's at 12 bucks. So big investors are paying about $12.50. All right. With the closing, there are about 109 million shares outstanding right now. So they have diluted their shareholders a little bit more. As I was saying just a moment ago, I don't think that this amount of money was enough. So, of course, they've raised some more money. Yeah, very interesting case. This is very interesting case. Definitely going to be looking at the economic study once it comes out. Definitely going to be taking a closer look at this and keeping an eye on this. Some interesting questions that still need to be answered for me before I jump into this stock. I definitely would like to know how this plays out, how the permitting is going to go for the stock, and especially a very big question: where are they going to be raising 6.4 billion bucks from? Marco says Ross is hinting that they are willing to partner up with top major mining companies to complete takeover is also a possible outcome. Yeah, a takeover is always an outcome for a mining project. And let's just see. Like, let's say they are going to be taken over, right? Let's say they are going to be taken over. What can we expect somebody to pay for that at that point? We are going to be... Marco, very similar to what Seabridge is trying to achieve with a potential joint venture with Newmont. Yes, it might be. It might be the same. Seabridge was also in some legal conflicts, as we saw a week ago. So there's a little bit more complexity right there. But Seabridge also had a very big resource. But the big difference with Seabridge is that the company has been trying for 20 years, right? The company had its permits given to them in 2014 and it's 2026 right now, and they still haven't been able to mine. So there's a little bit of a difference right there. This company is still trying to get their permits. And Seabridge already has them for way too long without mining anything, you know? So they're kind of stuck. And with this company, it's not stuck yet. They're still moving. They're still trying to get things organized to get their permits. Mm-hmm. So a little bit chat GPTing on the side, right? The total. So we are going to look right now at the potential buyout of this company. So let's say they eventually get their resources in order. Eventually they get their permits in, let's say, 3 or 4 years, maybe 5 years, something like that. And then they are not going to be able to raise 6.4 billion bucks. And they and Ross Beatty are just saying, all right, fuck it. We're just going to sell the whole thing. Who cares? Let's just cash out. How much money could somebody potentially pay for this? When I look at a stock and I look at a deposit, I always take about 10 to 15% of the deposit value as a potential buyout value, because that is the average that a deposit has been sold for in the past. And so if we look at this deposit, they have 19 billion pounds of copper and about 850 million ounces of silver. So an extremely big resource. They say, or well, ChatGPT says if you calculate all of this out, the resource is going to be $186 billion in just potential economic value. If you take 10% of that, that's 18 billion bucks. Right now, the company is trading for about $1 billion. So that means that there's like an 18x multiplier between the deposit and what people potentially might pay for this if they are going to be buying out the whole stock. That's a pretty big multiple, which means that the stock right now is trading pretty cheaply compared to their entire resource. Marco says, I have made a lot of money with Ross Beatty projects, Pan American Silver, Equinox, and could be a good bet for this one as well. Yeah, it is very cheap. It is very cheap. The resource is worth 18 times the current market cap. Or well, the potential buyout of the resource, it's worth 18 times the current market cap. There are just a couple questions that need to be answered, right? Are they going to be able to get a deal over the taxes? Are they going to be able to get 2 mines up and running? Are they going to be able to get the permits, right? That's a big question. But, you know, every answer to all of those questions is going to increase the market cap of a company like this. Because if this gets into production, it's probably going to be profitable. Although, the only thing I don't like about this is the fact that the capex is so extremely high. And the fact that even after all of that capex spend, you only have a 20 to 30% return in this stock. And, you know, that is, of course, if you can compound 20% year over year for 20 years, you're going to be extremely rich. So in that sense, it is a very good investment. It is, you know, maybe I'm comparing it to things that I shouldn't be comparing it to, but there are a lot of other projects that you can look at that have rates of return that are higher than this one. They don't, however, have the backing of Ross Beatty, and they don't have such a large deposit that they could mine. So there are, you know, afwegingen, you know, things, that's how you say it in Dutch. There are things to consider when you're making an investment like this. But yeah, I get why you would say that, Marco, that could definitely be, again, with this case. Chris Simak says, keep your paper, I will keep actual gold and silver in my hands. Well, yeah, the whole point of the game is to trade this paper that you made for gold and silver, right? The whole point of the game is identifying the stocks that are going to outperform gold and silver so that you can buy more of it at the end. But yeah, Marco, very interesting case right here. I don't know, I'll have to put this on my watch list. I'll have to put this on my watch list, I have to say. It's very interesting. It's very interesting with some really big questions that need to be answered over a couple of years. And, you know, I'm pretty patient as an investor. I don't really mind. So I'll keep it on my watch list. Let me add some notes to this so that we know what we talked about. All right. I just added a couple notes. So next time I look at this, I know what we looked at right now, and I know the questions that need to be answered. But yeah, thanks for the tip, Marco. Definitely be keeping an eye on this for the next couple of years. Hey, while we are on the charts right now, let me just pull up the chart of gold and silver and just look at that for a little bit. I wanted to read this article as well with you guys right now. Just gonna be honest right now. I'm kind of procrastinating on it because I don't really feel like reading. I know, if you came here for me to read some stories today, I'm very sorry. That is not happening right now. We're just gonna be yapping. We're just gonna be talking. That is what I'm in the mood for, so that is what I'm gonna do. Because this is, it's my YouTube channel. I can do whatever I want. All right, some things that I wanted to look at. Silver price has been doing some things as well. The world seemed to be falling apart this week again. We have drawn this line, this red sloping line, for a couple of weeks right now, and as you can see, it's still holding up pretty well. We can see that the price of silver has shot below it for one day, but afterwards it's closed upwards, so the line is still being respected. There's still support in the price of silver. I don't see a single reason why the price of silver would drop, which is exactly why it's probably going to drop like a rock on Monday morning, because that's how those things go. But what I just noticed in this chart is that silver has been moving in this pattern for a little bit where it's going up and down. But something that is very interesting is that the moves have been getting smaller. As you can see, the first move, extremely big. Big up move, big down move. The next move, lower up move, lower down move. The last move right here, tiny bit up, tiny bit down, right? If we look at that in percentages, the first move, we went up 130%, then we went down 40%. Then the second move, we went up 28%, we went down 29%, and the last, as we were just in, we went up about 20%, and we went down about 16%. So the moves are getting smaller, which means that the price of silver is potentially setting up again to make another big move. Boom. Honey Badger Silver should be on your watch list. Honey Badger Silver. All right, let me look at that in a little bit, and then we'll put it on there if it's interesting. I saw Don the Red talk about that. It's his new favorite stock, I believe. But yeah, the price movements in silver are slowing down, which makes me think that if we go ahead and make this into a little triangle, that we might be able to get another move at some point, right here, which is going to be very welcomed. Gold, however, has been moving. It has broken this pattern, potentially going into this box, as we talked about in the past. But something else has been breaking down recently. The price of Bitcoin has also been going down. I like to look at the Bitcoin chart every now and then, not because I like Bitcoin in any way. I think it's a big scam, and I think a lot of people have been tricked into buying something that doesn't actually exist, and they are going to lose a tremendous amount of money within Bitcoin. But a lot of things financially are very related to each other, and I think that Bitcoin is very related to the AI hype and the AI trend that is out there right now. And I do believe that once Bitcoin really starts to go down and strategy is blowing up, that a lot of other things are blowing up at the same time too. It's all kind of, integrated and connected to each other. But I like to look at that sometimes too. It's been going down a little bit recently. I would start to get interested if it went below, let's say, 64K and we made new lows. Let's see if that's going to happen at some point. I'm just drawing this line as a reference for that, so we'll come back to that once that happened. Let me look at the gold-silver ratio for a little bit, because I haven't looked at that yet. Nothing really happening too much right here. We went up, down, and now we are back up again. All right. Nothing all that interesting. I've seen a couple people post this chart recently. The GDX over gold. We're going to be looking at this in a weekly time frame, right? They've been the box that I've been talking about and I've been showing you guys on this channel for a long time already. This is the GDX over gold. So that means how much are people appreciating gold miners compared to the actual price of gold itself? AKA, how speculative are people, right? Are people buying gold or are people buying gold miners? Big central banks, big money, big bucks, they buy gold. You, me, every other guy, you know, normal people, normal investors, we buy gold stocks. Why? Because gold is very expensive and gold stocks offer a tremendous amount of leverage to the price of gold. But we are alone in that right now. This is the box that we are in. This is the speculative box, as I would like to say it. And this really shows me whether or not we are really in a bull market for these gold stocks. Because right now, you can see we are still in the same levels of speculation as we were in 2020 and 2016. We are not nowhere near the levels in 26 or in 2006 or in 2011 when the last bull market topped. So this shows me that we're nowhere near a top. We haven't even began the real move up, right? I believe that eventually this ratio is going to go up, which means that a lot of these gold mines are going to be making a lot of money for their shareholders. But as of right now, we are still in the box, which means that nothing really much is happening yet. Even though the prices of the GDX, the GDXJ and stuff, it's still going up, but compared to gold, it's still nowhere near top. But I'm kind of in the mood for another stock right now. So let's look at Honey Badger Silver. Honey Badger Silver. What is a honey badger again? All right. This little guy. Hell yeah. Honey Badger Silver. So this guy... Is this guy going to make us money or not? That's a big question, you know? Those are the important questions in life. Should you invest in this cute little fella or not? Unfortunately, another mailing list question. People. All right, just some random commentary about the website itself. 3 things that are kind of cringe to me as like a younger millennial. You know, you don't want to be cringe. Cringe is one of the deadly sins, you know, in life. And cringe to people comes pretty quickly. This right there, this little honey badger in the background wearing a suit, that's hella cringe, bro. Get that shit out of here, man. What is that? It's a honey badger with a suit and a tie on. Bro, what are we doing, man? Come on. Get a little serious right here, boy. This is not representative of a very serious company. I don't like this at all. I also don't like the AI chatbot. That doesn't work, unfortunately. Oh, hell yeah. Hell yeah. What has a honey badger to do with silver? Right. All right. What has a honey badger to do with silver? All right. Let's let it. I'm gonna let it cook for a little bit. I'm gonna let it make an answer, and until we get an answer from this AI, we are gonna go continue looking at this property. If you like silver, you love Honey Badger. 8 100% owned projects in northern Canada. All right. Haven't we looked at this in a little bit? I don't know. BC Silver Project. I know that I've looked at this at some point, but I can't remember if I did it on stream or on a video or if I just did it in my own time. But I remember this part of it. I for sure remember this because they leased some silver to they leased some silver to like a pretty famous like monetary metals or something like that, and they are getting some pretty good yields on that. But it can be wrong, can be a different company because all of these companies kind of do the same deals and they're kind of alike. All right, but let's see what it says. It says that's a fun question. The name Honey Badger Silver is a deliberate branding choice that reflects the company's character and approach rather than a literal connection between the animal and silver. The honey badger is famously known as one of the most tenacious, fearless, and relentless animals in the world. It doesn't give up, it doesn't back down, and it goes after what it wants regardless of the obstacles. That spirit maps directly onto how we approach silver exploration and development. Aggressively pursuing high-quality silver assets in challenging, remote Canadian jurisdictions where others may not venture. Not gonna lie, that's a pretty good answer. All right, I like that answer. That's pretty good. All right, keep the AI bot. We have in the first live stream. All right. We have already in the first live stream. All right. I probably didn't like it then, if I don't remember it. But let me just see. BC Silver. Oh yeah, they had this big silver zinc asset that was more zinc than silver, right? But they didn't have the documentation for that. I remember that. So let's just see if Sadar Plus is online. I can show you guys. And I can show you guys what that looks like. Because we weren't able to find out what the exact numbers were in this mineral resource estimate. I remember now. I got it back. Let's see if this works. No, we are 3 weeks later and Sadar Plus is still offline. Please, somebody that works in the Canadian government, please fix this. But we still can't look at Honey Badger Silver because unfortunately the website is offline. Thank you for letting me know that we've already looked at this. I remember it now too. Perfect. If you guys want to look at another company, just put it in there. We still got some time to look at another stock, so just let me know. Until then, we'll just look at some more charts. So we were looking at the GDX over gold times 100. Which means how many people are investing in gold itself and how many people are investing in gold miners. That's a way to gauge how much speculation there is in the market as a whole, right? Now let's look at the GDXJ over the GDX. This is a ratio between smaller gold mines and bigger gold mines. So where this is a ratio of how many people are buying gold mines in general compared to gold, this is a ratio of whether people are buying smaller gold mines or people are buying larger gold mines. So how I like to look at this is one chart is explaining to me what is the total population of people interested in gold mining? And this chart is explaining to me how many of those people interested in gold mining are taking the additional financial risk that comes with a smaller project. And what I like to see here is that we formed a bottom somewhere in 2022, and we are very slowly, I may add, moving upwards, right? We are very slowly moving upwards from a bottom up in this percentage, which means that the people who are invested in the mining industry right now are getting a little bit more speculative. They are taking on a little bit more risk. They are looking at a little smaller of a project. That is very good. I like to see that. BMC Minerals. Let me see BMC Minerals as the next suggestion. BMC Minerals. See, this is what a normal website looks like in this industry. You have a nice picture of a piece of land. You got a very corporate logo. You know, there's no honey badgers in suits. There's no foxes with top hats on. There's no silliness. This is just a website. I like that. There's no AI bot that I have to talk with. You know, I like this a lot better. Maybe I'm just boring in that sense, but you know, if you want to be interesting and cool, do something like this, right? If you want to have a cool and interesting website, do something like this. Palisades. My internet is extremely slow, so that is taken away from the dramatic effect that this little speech had. Yeah, if you want to have a cool website, make something like this. Right? This is very slick. This is very nice. This is a Palisades Gold, which is a company that owns a big portion of Newfound Gold. They own that through their joint CEO connection. You know, from way back, the CEO is now changed, but this company had the same CEO as Newfound Gold. But this is a slick website. This is a very slick presentation. You know, it's got personalized visuals. It's got everything like that. This is how you make a brand, and this is how you make something stand out. You don't do it by giving a honey badger a suit and a tie. That's just silly. This is how you do some professional marketing. I really like this website. I think this is a great example for the industry, honestly. It's talking to just, you know, it's talking to a different form of investor as the last website we've seen. And it's also talking to a different investor than this website gives, but at least this website doesn't immediately give off unserious vibes, honestly. Where Honey Badger Silver with the little honey badge, it gives off a little silliness, and I don't like spending my money on silly things, if I'm being honest. Marco, I also have BMC on my watch list, waiting for the correction to make a buy. Let me just see BMC. BMC Minerals. BMC Minerals. Right, so the stock has shot up pretty substantially, it seems like, in 2026 in February. So something happened, right, in the news. They are currently trading at about 2 euros, I think, because this is the Frankfurt market right now that we're looking at. All right, so something big happened to this company. It's pretty good. Let's see what it is. BMC is a mineral exploration company with significant exposure to both precious metals and base metals, particularly silver, zinc, copper, lead, and gold, in that order. BMC is developing its world-class project in Yukon, Canada. All right, Yukon, Canada. Yukon, Canada, also known as the middle of nowhere. Oh, sorry. Also known as the middle of nowhere. A couple questions come to mind instantly. Guess we'll talk about them soon, which is the accessibility of this project. But let's see at that. They did an IPO in January, as far as I know. Okay. It's pretty good to see that the IPOs are starting to heat up again in this market. That means that there's a lot of corporate activity going on as well, which is only good if you are invested in this market, because that means that there's a lot more money flowing around. And that is always good in a very illiquid market, as we are in this industry. But they are developing this project to become a responsible, near-term, and globally significant polymetallic producer. All right. The project is expected to operate for a minimum of 9 years. So significantly less time than the last project we looked at. Once in operation, it is expected to be Canada's largest silver and zinc producer. All right. It's trading for $3.16. All right. Give me a presentation, please. Corporate presentation. Let's just go over that to begin with. Let's see what the project holds. It's got a 9-year mine life, which sounds pretty short for a mining project. But let's see. Oh, I made the presentation too big. Metals equivalent calculation. So they start off with a lot of text here. And I actually don't want to read any of that. Is that crazy? Is that a crazy thing to say? I kind of just want to have like a nice overview of the project. It's a, as they say, a high grade, high margin project. And let me make this bigger for you guys anyway, because I feel like you guys don't see this at all. Here. So they say the project high grade, high margin. The project is host to a high probable ore reserve of almost 600 grams per ton silver equivalent. I would love to know how this is calculated and what grades silver and gold they actually have. Significant exploration potential, underdeveloped land holding of a big piece of land, and a highly prospective for volcanic hosted massive sulfides deposit, VHS deposits. I believe that these go pretty deep, which means that they are going to spend a lot of money exploring for that. That's the second question that I have for this stock already, right? The location of the project, very important, because if you have a helicopter only accessible project, it's going to cost you a lot of money to explore it. Now we're talking about a VHS system, which is potentially also going to be extremely deep, which is going to be costing a lot of money to develop and explore. Let's see, attractive project economics, high-grade ore body, net present value of under $1 billion, and a payback of about 2 years. All right. Under $50 million spent up to date with camp, all right, with nearby infrastructure, polymetallic deposit, advanced permitting, all right, key licenses. They got Type B water, they got Type A water, and they got quartz mining. All right, but they don't have an actual mining permit, of course. So it's located in the Yukon, and they say that it's located near the Ross River. Let's try to see if we can pinpoint where this project is located. Hey, John McIntosh. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Good to see you, man. Let's see. So they say that near the Yukon River. Right, so it should be located somewhere in this area. Which means, let me just drop this little guy over here. Let's see what this looks like. Right, so if we are talking about places that are located in the middle of nowhere, this definitely gets one of them, gets one of the prizes for that. It seems like this project is located absolutely in the middle of nowhere, which doesn't have to be a project or a problem, but you know, it's something to take into consideration. Haley, John McIntosh here. I've written a piece about the US balance sheet in silver. Oh, link that to me or send me an email with the piece. If it's a cool piece, we can definitely go over it on stream and then we can read it and you can give us some commentary. That would be a lot of fun. Let me know. So this is the project history. And it seems like the project has been discovered in 1994. It's gotten some mining approvals in the past. And then it got bought by this company in 2016. They did a reserve estimate. They did another estimate. They did some socio-economic assessments. They did an economic update. All right, they did a feasibility study. They went public. And positive decision document received for development of the ABM mine by the government of Yukon, Natural Resource Canada, and the Department of Fisheries. All right, so it might seem that they have recently received the decision. That's pretty good, because if you own the permits and you own a pretty good project, well, what is your email? It is a silverlininganalysis@gmail.com. You can also find that in the description of my videos and on my Twitter. My Twitter is lining analysis. But yeah, my email is silverlininganalysis@gmail.com. It is called Dartboards, Clogged Toilets, and the Silver Institute. Sounds like a cool name, man. Larsa says, my friend, you only do silver. Do you know about Kalo Gold? I think they could get big. A re-rating based on DAX coming in soon. All right, we can look at it. From the sounds of it, it's a pre-exploration company or a pre-resource drilling program. Could be very interesting. But we are looking at BMC Minerals right now, and it looks like it's a company with a decent-sized resource that has received their decision to build a mine. At least what I can see of it right now. So key value drivers at KZK, strategic initiatives and priority work streams for the next 12 to 18 months. So they are doing some exploration right now, 20,000 meters. All right, so pretty decent sized drilling exploration going on at the moment. They got some engineering that they are doing. They are updating their feasibility study in mid-2027, so definitely something to look forwards to, because this is probably going to be the feasibility study that they are going to use if they get the permitting done to build their mine around. But the decision document for ABM mines, they've received that on the 10th of April, and they are now in the process. Anticipated 18-month process for the 3 key permits. All right, so it seems like the actual permitting decisions are still 18 months away. So that gives them a little bit more time to do some more engineering, right? But they are also looking at construction financing. Construction financing process in mid-2026 to support final investment decision and advancing towards the development. All right, how much money are they going to be needing to raise? Let's look at that. They got an exploration update. Oh yeah, thanks, thanks, John McIntosh. I got it here in my email. I'll be looking at it, and then so I'll be looking at this in connection with the other posts. The this one, the Silver Institute strikes again. Oh yeah, we're definitely going to be looking at this. Thanks, man. I'm not in a particularly big reading mood at the moment, so I'm very sorry that I'm not going to be reading it right now. But I promise you that we are definitely going to be reading all of this on stream. So it's going to be very interesting for sure. Let's see. So this company has received some of their permits and they are currently looking to raise the money that they need for the construction. So the first question that is in my mind right now, how much is the stock worth right now and how much are they going to be needing to raise? So the company says that they have 275 million shares outstanding for a Australian dollar price of $3 a share, which gives them a market capitalization of about 600 million. All right, that is pretty good. No real huge names in the industry that hold this stock. That's fine. How much money are they going to be needing to raise? Investors, let's go look at where are their news releases? Investor dashboard, announcements. Let's see if I can find out how much they are going to be needing to raise for their investments or for their developments. I'm sorry. Here we go. Pre-production capital that's needed of about 500 million. All right, so the stock is trading at about, what was it? At about 600 million right now. They are going to need to raise 500 million. So they are going to be needing to raise about, 90% of their market cap or 80% of their market cap. So that's quite a big amount of money that they are going to be needing to raise on this market cap. How are they going to do that? That is, of course, a big question. But they stated something about the mineral resource here. So they have about 70 million ounces of silver at a pretty big 140 gram per ton resource. They got 666 AO, the devil's number. Bless yourself if you need to right now. They got some gold ounces too at 1.3 gram per ton. They got a negligible amount of copper. 130,000 ounces is not all that much copper in the grand scheme of things at 0.9%. They got a bunch of zinc and they got some lead. So this mine is primarily going to be a zinc mine with some other components in it. So that is definitely something that you should take into account, because if you're going to be pumping 500 million bucks into something, you are going to have an opinion on all of these metals instead of just one. Where we saw in the last company that we looked at, you needed to pump 6.4 billion into something, but then you just get zinc and copper. That's a more streamlined production process. Lars says, do you actually have price predictions for silver and like some kind of timeline for that? A lot of predictions have been thrown around with a huge range. What is your take on price predictions? I don't really look at the straight number on the price of gold or the price of silver. I look at the ratio between gold to silver and the ratio between gold to the S&P 500. And I could make a price prediction for you if you wanted to, but I don't think that that is going to be very beneficial. I look at the ratios, and right now, all of the ratios are extremely cheap. I don't want to get into it too much right now, but all of the ratios look really cheap, and I sell them when those ratios look expensive, but we are very, very far away from that. So I don't have a number for you, but I just know that eventually they're going to be higher. Do you think there's a valid, good method to reach a number like this? Yeah, looking at ratios, that is for me, a valid and reasonable thing to look at. So you look at the ratio between the gold price and the S&P 500, the ratio between gold and silver, and then the ratio between mining stocks and the price of gold, and then you can make a prediction for yourself. Lasma says, what is the goal of today's stream? Is it to look at junior silver mining and exploration? I think miners are speculative enough and explorers is speculation on steroids. Yeah, for sure. No, today's stream and the streams in general are just going to be looking at these mining companies and giving some opinions about them. They're definitely extremely speculative, and I definitely want to highlight that with these streams as well, showing you guys what I look at, and then just talking about the things that are on my mind when I look at these companies. I prefer mid-sized producers myself, the best risk reward and better liquidity. For sure. For sure. The reason why people like to invest in these smaller companies that are pre-production is because they have no liquidity. And if a stock that has very low liquidity sees a very big inflow of investors, that has a very dramatic effect on the stock price. And so a lot of people like that aspect to it, where the liquidity actually becomes a boost, because a lot of people want to get into a stock, and then afterwards a lot of people want to get out. So the volatility is extremely high. And if you can get into a stock that is pre-production, but it goes into production, then the re-rating that happens in that is just very, very big. But where we are right now in the cycle, the producers are definitely being rewarded more than the exploration companies. You can see a company like Santa Cruz Mining, it has gone up like 20x since in this cycle. But the real exploration companies, they haven't gone up yet because they have no cash flow. They have no direct benefit to the increasing price of gold. And so it's just speculation. And because there are not a lot of speculators in this market right now, that means that those stocks have really lagged behind the rest. But I believe that is going to change at some point. But when that changes, you need to understand what to look for in these stocks and not to buy something wrong or to buy the wrong kind of stock, because then you're still going to lose a lot of money. So the goal with all of these streams is to teach myself and to teach my viewers what to look at with these stocks. What is a good project? What is not a good project? What are red flags? If you got a resource like this, it's a, generally small resource in a very remote place. So then, one question that you could ask is this resource big enough for somebody to pump 500 million bucks in? Those are the things that I want to look at with these companies. Hey guys, welcome. A lot of people from Canada. I do believe that the mining space is pretty popular in Canada. I've never been there. I would love to come. I would love to come to the conferences there at some point. But you were from Eastern Europe. Where are you from, Lasma? I've been to a lot of places in Eastern Europe. May felt like a really disappointing month for silver, says MacG. Yeah, for sure. A lot of people lost a lot of hope and interest in silver. And you can definitely see that sentiment on Twitter as well. When the price of silver goes down, just everybody just throws in the towel and just leaves the market right away. While it is just at that point that you need some real, conviction into your cases. Yeah, for sure, for sure. 2025 was really a good year. Time is needed to reset momentum. Patience is needed. Appreciate your analysis. Thank you. 2025 was crazy for sure. Yeah. I don't mind this period in the market, honestly. I don't mind the fact that things just take a long time right now. I actually like it because it gives people time to really understand this market. And you have to understand that you may be very interested in gold and silver and all of those metals and all of the mining behind it because you've been involved in this market for a long time. But a lot of people don't know shit about gold. They just found out that gold actually has a price and that the earrings that they wear are actually valuable. Or the bracelet that they got from their mom 25 years ago actually has some value. So they're relearning about gold. And that's what the price action did. If gold doubles, then people start to think about that again. But people are starting to learn more about gold and silver and their roles in society. Yeah, that's what happened in 2025, and now we need some time for people to try and understand the mining industry as well, because that takes some time. You can't expect people to be interested in gold and then dive straight into gold exploration stocks. They need some time to get adjusted to this market, and I do believe that this dull that we're in right now, even though it might be very boring, is extremely useful because it gives people time to get acclimated to this market. AJ Wells says, a bit confusing. The bars at the top of the chart are a conversion of each element to gold equivalent ounces. Yeah, exactly. Oh no, they are equivalent to silver equivalent ounces. So getting back to the story at hand, right? We got a little sidetracked right there. Getting back to the story, right? We are talking about a stock, BMC Minerals, which owns a property and a project in the Yukon. They own a property right about roughly about here. Roughly the middle of butt-ass nowhere. So roughly somewhere here. Doesn't really matter where, if it's here or there or there or there, it's still in the middle of nowhere, right? You can point it at any place in this map and it's still nowhere. They have a resource of 70 million ounces of silver, 666, astaghfirullah, you know what I mean? Just 666,000 ounces of gold. Bless yourself if you need to. They got some copper ounces, they got a whole bunch of zinc, and they got some lead. And if you put that on a chart right here, you can see that the property primarily has a big zinc component. So investing in this property, in this company, is a bet primarily on the zinc price. And going into that thought, right, if you are going to be making a zinc mine, are you going to be making a zinc mine in Canada? Is there a lot of interest in that? Well, the project or the company says that they are going to be needing to raising $500 million in the coming 18 months. They said that right here, right? The construction financing. So they are going to be in the process of this financing in mid-2026. So that is about now. And they are doing that to support the final investment decision. So they are raising the money right now. So if you buy this company right now, expect to be diluted quite a lot pretty soon, because they are in the process right now of raising about 500 million bucks. Maybe they're not going to be raising all of it. Maybe it's going to be debt that they're going to be taking on, but there's some financials going on in the background. Personally, me, but that is just me, I would like to see the deal being done before I step into a project like this, because I want to know who's in that deal, at what terms, and how much money could they raise. Very important questions. But if they're in the process right now, why not just wait until the deal is done before you get in? That's the way that I look at it. But 32 million ounces of silver equivalent production a year, all right, which is just going to be 7 million ounces of silver and a whole lot of zinc. So they are actually only going to be producing about 8 million ounces of silver and about 57 million ounces or 1,000 ounces of gold. So it's actually a rather small production. And big mines and small mines have the same amount of risk to them. It's just the rewards are potentially going to be lower. Although they do say that their pre-tax projected revenue or profits is going to be 42%, which is a lot bigger than the other mine that we just looked at, right? So you see that this rate of return is really different depending on the companies that you look at. I like this number to be very high, of course. Oh, Lasma, you from Latvia? Hell yeah! I went there to drink in the capital a couple of years ago. It was a lot of fun. It's a great place. I went to Estonia, Estland, Letland, Litauen. So the three of them there. I really liked Estonia as well. I've been to the capital there, and I was a bartender there actually for like 6 months or something. I worked in a hostel. I had a great time. Had a great time. Tallinn, that's what it was called. I kind of forgot. It was a lot of fun, Tallinn. So they have some commodity price assumptions. All right, all right. Mining overview. So they are going to be mining it open pit, as you see here, and a part of it is going to be underground. Majority of the mining is through open pit. So 89% of the probable ore reserves are going to be in the open pit, and 11% of the reserves are going to be mined underground in year 5. So they are saying that they have an initial 9-year projected mine life, which is not a lot. So it's a small mine, which doesn't have a lot of years on it. This might be a little bit too small for me to invest in, actually. So we looked at a mine last time that was too big. This mine looks to be on the smaller side in the grand scheme of things. And let me just look at the management, what they've done in the past. Maybe that changes a big part of this opinion. Robin, first mining gold, buying shares suggest high confidence, does it not? I've seen the same in generation mining. I'm working the night shift at the moment. Oh yeah, the graveyard shift, huh? What kind of job do you do, man? But yes, it suggests a lot of different things. Sure, it suggests high confidence. Yeah, you have to have confidence in the stock before you buy it, of course. So in that sense, it's a good thing when somebody buys stock in his own company. But in the world of finances, everything can be smoke and mirrors too. So just keep that in mind as well. So the executive team of this company starts with Stephen Michael. Stephen Michael, 30 years of experience, industry leader in investment banking and corporate advisory. So going all the way back to the beginning of this stream, this is what I meant. A lot of people in the mining industry, they come from the finance world, so they know a lot about stocks, so they know when to sell and when to buy them. He was a managing director of Red Hawk Mining. Red Hawk Mining, formerly Flinders Mining, Australia exploration and development company. All right, which got sold to FMG for about $1 a share. All right, so that is some experience, successful experience. He sold a mine before. Worked 15 years in natural resources with a capital bank, so definitely a capital manager, a money guy. We then look at the CEO, Michael McLelland. Michael McLelland, appointed CEO in 2025. Been with the company since 2024, so a very fresh face to the company. Previously CFO of Titan Mining Corporation and Augusta Gold. Titan Mining. Let me just see what that stock is about. Titan Mining is a US-focused critical mineral evolving from a pure zinc producer into a diversified supplier of materials. All right, so he has worked on a zinc mine before, which is relevant experience. So that's good, right? So you have successful experience right here with the sale of a mine. You have relevant experiences here working with zinc. This is a primarily zinc focused project as well. All right. Alexander Christopher, non-executive director, 40 years of experience, mining and exploration, tech resources, a very big company. So that's good to see. And before retiring, so this man has come out of retirement right now to run a company, which means one or two things. Either he is broke right now and he needs money, or he is so enthusiastic about this story that he is giving up some of his retirement years to come and lead this company. One of the two, both could also be the case. He held senior management and commercial and technical positions across tax, exploration, corporate development, and project groups. So he's kind of done everything. And he is a director right now of Alamos Gold. All right. Natalia Streltsova has over 20 years of experience in international resources, including senior executive roles at Vail, very big all-round mining company, BHP, very big all-round mining company. All right, so it seems like the management team has a lot of experiences with these polymetallic resources like this, right? Where there is a big zinc component and a smaller component of some other metals as well. The problem with mining so many different forms of metal is also in the processing of them, because you need a different processing facility for gold, for copper, for zinc, and silver can be used, in between those. But there's a lot of processing that goes on there. So seeing that a bunch of people in the management team actually have experiences at companies who do that regularly is pretty good to see. In general, I do think this deposit is quite small to really, justify the resources spent to get it out of the ground, because 500 million is a lot of money. So with this stock, the only question I really have is, what is this going to do? How are they going to raise this money, and at what terms? And then after that, after they've raised that money, I would like to see them get the permits. And at that, at that point, we will definitely be very interested in this. They have a long-term offtake agreement with Glencore, MRI, and some Korea Zinc and Glencore. All right, so they sold a part of their production already. That's pretty good. Pre-production capital cost breakdown. All right, so processing infrastructure. All right. See, so this is what I talked about just a moment ago, right? Because they have so many different kinds of materials, their infrastructure and their processing costs are really high, right? 190 million off of the 500 million capex is just in the processing of their materials. And that is not because they have so many materials to process, but because they have so many different materials to process. So that is unfortunately just a big part of the capex, which is not going to change. But because you have so many processes, it just costs a lot of money. That's just what it is. The mining itself is pretty cheap, right? 51 million. That's relatively cheap. That's 1/10 of the capex. But the processing and the infrastructure, right? Owners and indirect cost, 85 million. What does that mean? They don't say what that means, but that probably means that they are going to give the people who own this company itself a big bonus once it is in production. Would be very interested in seeing that. But yeah, definitely big costs right there, unfortunately. Operating costs breakdown per silver equivalent ounce. All right. Sure. So this is the path to the mining investment decision. They are going to be updating their economic assessments, right? The economic assumptions were reviewed in a technical report in 2025. So they are using that for the regulatory permits, which have been submitted already. They are going to get the results of that in about 18 months from now. And they are going to need to get a license for the following, for the mining itself and for the water usages. And after they got these licenses, they will explore a range of different financial options. All right. Which means this is a very complex way of saying debt, by the way. Debt and selling shares. That is what that means. And then they are saying that they are having some exploration potential on their properties as well, right? They got very small properties, kind of satelliting around their deposits with some exploration potential. Sure. I mean, in my opinion, pretty run-of-the-mill company. Pretty run-of-the-mill multi-metal deposits, polymetallic deposits, right? Not an extremely big resource, not an extremely high-grade resource. It's just, a project somewhere. It's not really all that particularly super interesting. So, that's I think all that I'm going to say about it. I'm pretty interested to see what the how they are going to be raising this money. So that's what I'll keep an eye out on regarding BMC Minerals. But yeah, you said that they were getting public right in January. That's why the stock jumped. Sure. Yeah. All right. Cool. Let's see what it does. Right. Let's see what it does. Let me just go back to the silver chart. Right. So, Lars, about that prediction, right, of the silver price, we can go over it now since we are kind of done looking at the BMC minerals. All of these stocks that I look at, by the way, I'll be making separate videos about them on YouTube. So if you missed something right now, or you want to use that video um, to look at it yourself, just wait a couple days. It'll be online on YouTube. But about that silver prediction, right? About that price prediction. The way that I go about doing that is looking at this chart. It is gold divided by the SPX. So that is just the price of gold divided by the price of the S&P 500, which is just a stock index. And this tells me whether gold on its own is expensive or cheap compared to general equities. So you have the general stock market with stocks in them like Nvidia, Apple, Microsoft, those kind of things, right? How do people value that compared to gold? And as you see right here, when we go into a gold bull market, people value gold and gold more compared to the general equity markets. And then after the bull market is over, people value gold less and less and less compared to the general equity markets. So I expect the valuation of gold compared to general equities to go up in the future, at least to what it was in 2011, but realistically, at some point, more closer to something that it was around 1970, 1980, because we are really in a global debt crisis right now. And a big remedy for all of the debt that is out there is gold, in my opinion. And that means that I think that eventually people are going to be a lot more interested in gold compared to general equities. So I believe that gold is going to rise tremendously compared to general equities. How much that is going to be eventually, I don't know. Like if you looked at the ratio between the Dow Jones and gold, the Dow Jones is another market. You can see that in the 1970s, we reached a peak of 1, which means that 1 ounce of gold is just as valuable as 1 share in the Dow. If we look at the Dow Jones Industrial Average right now, it is worth 30,000. So let's say that eventually we are going to go back to, let's say, 0.5, right? If the Dow Jones stays where it is right now, then that would mean $15,000 for an ounce of gold. Of course, it's just a big number that's out in the sky, but you know, I believe that when all things are said and done, I do believe that all of these ratios are going to go up eventually, just like they did in the 1970s. Maybe not this dramatic, but they are definitely going to go up a lot more than where they are right now. So let's say that the Dow Jones drops in half, right? And we go back in this ratio to a 0.5, that would mean that gold would be about 7,500. Then if you take that assumption, right, then you can go look at the gold to silver ratio. How valuable is silver compared to gold? We can see that you need about 60 ounces of silver right now to buy an ounce of gold. In history, we have seen, in recent history, since the year 2000, we've seen that the average is about 50. We've seen that the low in the last bull market, so the peak in the price of silver, was about 30 ounces of silver compared to an ounce of gold. But I actually believe that we are going to go way beyond that at some point, and that we are going to go to a more historic average, which is about 1 in 10. So then you can think, okay, how much potentially is the Dow Jones going to go down? If you compare that to the price of gold, what would that mean for the price of gold? And then afterwards, you can think, all right, what is the price of silver compared to the price of gold? Historically, it's about 50, about where we are right now. prehistorically, so that is before the year 2000, it was about 1 in 10, 1 in 15. You know, pick a number, pick a guess. But that is how I derive to my own personal targets. So looking at this chart, right, we can see that even in 2011, when the bull market really peaked, the gold to SPX ratio was so much higher than it is right now. So if you just look at this chart, right, and you just zoom out in history, you just look at 2011, like, how could you say that if the price of gold drops 5% in a day, or the price of silver drops 7% in a day, that that's the end of the bull market? If you're looking at a chart like this, like, it's not even close to a peak. You know, it's not even close to an ending of this bull market. And especially if you look further back in time, it's like, it's not even on the chart, you know? A move up and down 10, 20%, bro, it's not even on the chart. It doesn't even register on this time scale. So that's why I always think it's so stupid when people on Twitter are looking at these price movements and are really getting all that emotional about it. Because it really doesn't matter. Because at the end of the day, right, at the end of the day, all of these little price movements, they all pale in comparison to the real moves that we should be focusing on, right? The moves towards there. And you can bet that if gold compared to general equities is going to go up like that, that people are going to want to speculate a little bit more in the gold space. And then you get to the gold to silver ratio, and then you get eventually to the gold miners to the gold ratio. So that is really, in my mind, it's a bunch of ratios that are stacked on top of each other that I use to really understand where we are in this market and where we are eventually going to go. I believe we are just coming off of a bottom, right? We are experiencing a correction right now, as needs to happen, but we are very, very, very far away from a top. And I can prove that to you. I can show you that in all of these ratio charts, none of them look like anything like a top we've seen in 2011. So the people on Twitter, the people on the internet saying that gold is going to go down, silver is going to go down, whatever. Let it go down. Let it go down. Let it drop 50%. Who cares? Because the ratios are so good still. All of these things are so cheap still at this time that even if they drop 50%, they just become cheaper. So you should just be buying more, because this is the move that we are looking at. This is the move that we want to capture. I don't care about this move up and then this small move down and then another big move up and then another small move down. I care about this move. I care about the big picture in these charts and in these rotations of capital, which it really just is. Right? I only care about the big moves. So I'm not going to be on Twitter talking about every 10% correction, because it really doesn't matter unless we are near the, historic tops in these ratios, which we are very far away from. Anyway, is there anything else interesting to look at? It's about 6:30 right now, so I'm gonna have dinner in about 30 minutes, I guess. Bond yields. Let's look at the yields, what they've been doing. Right, so I've been saying for a while that once I see the yield of the 10 and 2-year spike upwards, that might be a moment for me to reconsider my investments and to take a step back, because I do believe that once the stock market crashes, everything is going to crash alongside it. So all of your gold stocks are going to be hit tremendously, 70 to 80%, I believe, and I want to sidestep that. And to do that, I look at this chart, the 10 minus the 2-year yield spreads. It's all very interesting stuff, I know. It's all very dry and boring, but, it's important. And I believe once we see this real shot up, right? Once we see this happening, that is when I want to sell. But who knows? Might be too late. Might be having a mixed signal. But things are not looking all that dramatic at the moment still, which is pretty good. But yeah, thinking about closing up soon. So Marco said, I like the late stage developers for my speculative bets such as Abra, Liberty Gold, etc. Still place most of my investments in producers. Yeah, I'm invested in a lot of development stories right now, mines that are moving towards production, because I believe that if you are getting a mine into production right now, you are going to be in a very good spot. But I do own some Abra as well. I really like the project. I've owned it for a while, and throughout my ownership, the company has added a bunch of ounces to their resource, and they are getting rewarded by it, by the market. So at some point I drew this cup and handle. I think that's no longer relevant. But I have been in this stock since 2022 or something. I've held all the way. I've held this stock for about 5 years now, I think. From somewhere there. And I just wanted to quickly circle back to the conversation we had at the beginning of this stream. Like, let's say you are an insider of this company, right? Let's say you are part of the management team. You are getting compensated roughly about 100 grand a year. That is just what these CEOs are and these management members are getting paid, between 100 and 500k a year. But let's say you put in a tremendous amount of work. You risk your personal and your family life trying to get this company off the ground, and you are getting paid nothing besides your base salary for, let's say, 4 or 5 years, right? You've held it all the way through, you've put in a tremendous amount of work, and all of a sudden, the stock that you own is going to be up 700% in a couple of years. Of course, you are going to start thinking about selling some stock to cover just some luxury expenses that you wanted to do in your personal life. Because, let's face it, all of these big management teams, they deserve to get compensated for good work. That's why they get the stocks. And, I actually don't mind them selling some stock, because they're just people too. They want to buy some things. I get that. You worked hard. You want to buy some fun things. Go ahead and do it. If, however, a company management team sells all of their stock, it's a little bit different. But in general, I don't mind people selling stocks when, the price has gone up like 700 or 800%. I kind of get that. I will do the exact same thing if I was in their shoes. But yeah, I think I'm gonna close the stream out. Thank you guys for being here. It was a lot of fun. We looked at a couple different companies. Sold says, do you know CTGO? Do you have an opinion on producing miners that have very low share count? Is it a benefit? In some way, it is a benefit because it lowers the volume in these stocks. CTGO. And it shows that management has not diluted their shareholders a tremendous amount. Because if you have a share count of like 1 billion shares outstanding, right, there's a compounding effect in that dilutive nature, which means that 1 billion shares is going to go to 1,100,000,000, 1,200,000,000, and then eventually you're talking about crazy numbers of shares. I know that some people do believe that a tight share structure is a very big benefit for a company. I don't really know why they believe that, but I don't really see a very big benefit to a low share count. Maybe it is so that the volume is lower. I don't know. Maybe it shows that the share price itself is higher, and people might attribute that to a better company. Maybe it's something like that. But no, at the end of the day, it's about the deals that they make, of course. It's about the dilution in those shares and not the actual number of shares. But it could be that if your share count is lower, right, that you are more diligent with your share count, which is a very good thing to have. Les says, everybody is here for the money. Well, a lot of these managers, of course, are. And that is just the nature of things. And, you know, I believe it was the great philosopher 50 Cent who said to trust your instincts and to trust people, you know, to act accordingly. And if you think people are snakes, expect them to bite you. And, you know, if you know that management is in this market to make money, expect them to make money when there is money to be made. So, you know, at the end of the day, it's just in line with the expectations, right? Marco, see you in Canada soon. Would be a lot of fun, man. Would be a lot of fun. Imagine going to Canada, going to a couple of these mining projects, making a couple of videos there. That would be a big dream of mine, huh? That would be a lot of fun. I would love to go to PDAC as well. Because I know a lot of people, or well, a lot. I know some people that do presentations there with some smaller companies that I talked to over the years. Would be nice to visit them, to see them, shake hands, make some content for you guys. Let's get that to happen, huh, at some point. All right, guys. I'm going to shut it off. Thanks for being here. Videos are coming out next week again. Next weekend, probably going to be streaming again. I'll let you know at what time. I kind of like this time right now. It's about 4 o'clock for me, so then I can do like 4 to 7. Maybe we can do it a little bit earlier, maybe a little bit later. Let me know what you guys think about that. Because, you know, I need to take your time into consideration as well, of course, since a lot of you guys are in Canada, and that is just a very different time zone. All right, guys, thank you so much for being here. It was a lot of fun. I'll see you guys in the next one. I've met some people from Belgium at VRRC this year here at Vancouver. A lot of people from the Netherlands and from Belgium are interested in mining. And that, of course, is very good. Because, as they say, right, if it ain't Dutch, it ain't much. So, all right. All right, guys. Bye-bye. See you in the next one.